Today I'll be reading Only Fools Rush In, a college AU by Vindicated Virgil on Tumblr, bookispanda on AO3. Trigger warnings apply to this chapter, including self-harm mention and suicide attempt mention. Please be cautious and take care of yourselves while reading and/or listening. A spoiler warning for Wicked the Musical also applies. Chapter 3. A dance, some shoes, and an audition. Roman sat on the edge of the stage, his hands gripping the script for Wicked closely, feet dangling and swinging gently. He had taken off his jacket and messenger bag, the two things sitting beside him, and at every sound he heard, he spun his head in that direction. He was nervous to spend time with Virgil to practice for the auditions, but he was also desperately looking forward to it. Finally, he heard a door close behind him and some shuffling feet, and he turned his head to see Virgil walking towards him, backpack slung over one shoulder, hoodie held tightly in his hand. Roman inspected the shirt he was wearing and realized that it said My Chemical Romance, a band that Remus was also a fan of. In fact, he had seen that exact shirt on his brother a few times. Did they go to a concert together or go shopping for that shirt together? Was it Virgil's shirt that Remus borrowed, or vice versa? Roman was afraid to find out. Hey, Roman. Sorry I'm late. I had to stop by one of my professor's office hours, Virgil explained, dropping his stuff beside Roman's. He leaned down to get his script out of his backpack, and Roman stood up, smiling. Don't worry, I was just looking through it, trying to decide which scene we should practice, he responded, trying not to focus on the way Virgil hesitated over every step he made on the stage. I think that we should maybe work on Bach's part in dancing through life. What do you think? He knew that the wheelchair for the role of Nessa was backstage somewhere, so they could make it work. You mean singing? And dancing? Virgil looked down at his feet. I don't know. I'm afraid that I'll fall if we dance. Roman set a hand on his shoulder and gave him an encouraging smile. I'll stay standing just in case you do, he said, and Virgil nodded. Roman took his phone out of his pocket and connected it to the Bluetooth speakers in the theater so that the music would play from the stage speakers. He started the instrumental version of the song, and from memory, sang Fiero's part in the song. He moved across the stage as he sang, Virgil's eyes focused on him. When the song got to Bach's part, Roman sang for Nessa, urging Virgil to join him, and he did. Listen, Nessa. Virgil spoke the lines towards Roman, who also stepped forward, giving him a questioning look. Yes? He asked, and Virgil took his hand, looking down at him. Roman felt his heartbeat quicken but stayed in character. Nessa, I've got something to confess, a reason why I asked you here tonight. He took a breath, and their eyes met. Now I know it isn't fair. Oh, Bach, I know why, Roman breathed out, trying to make sure he kept his word about ensuring that Virgil wouldn't fall on the stage. You do? Virgil's voice rang throughout the theater, and Roman took another deep breath. It's because I'm in this chair, and you felt sorry for me. Well, isn't that right? Roman sang, looking down at his feet as if he were actually playing the role of Nessa Rose. Virgil held on tighter to his hand. No, it's because... He took Roman's face in one of his hands, making their eyes meet, and Roman thought his heart would burst through his red shirt. Because you are so beautiful. Oh, Bach, I think you are so wonderful. Roman sang back, his voice wavering at the close proximity and touches from Virgil. And we deserve each other. Don't you see this is our chance? We deserve each other, don't we, Bach? You know what? Virgil's voice sounded more confident, and Roman was unsure if it was because of the character or that he actually became more confident. Let's dance. What? Roman was still in character, but he was surprised when Virgil held him close, and the two began dancing around the stage, as if Nessa's character wasn't meant to be in a wheelchair. Virgil led him in a dance, and Roman tried hard not to fall over his feet, wanting to keep his promise. Let's dance! The instrumental to the song kept playing in the background, but Virgil and Roman were silent as they moved to the music, hands resting awkwardly on shoulders and hips, their scripts held against the others' bodies. Their eyes met, and Roman swore he saw a softness in Virgil's dark eyes that he hadn't before. When the song ended, they separated, and Virgil looked down at his feet, his face bright red. Sorry, I got a little carried away, he explained, rolling and twisting the script in his hands. Roman couldn't think of a valid response. He wanted to say that he liked dancing with Virgil, that he loved the way he touched him so gently as if they might never touch again, and he was savoring that feeling. It's all right, Roman finally said. He tried hard to ensure his voice was even, because he felt so shaky, so nervous. You have a beautiful singing voice, Virgil. Even though the taller man's fringe was covering the majority of his face, Roman still noticed that his face reddened at his words. I think you're really talented, and I can't wait to see you get that role. Can we do some of the speaking parts next? The ones later on in the play. Maybe that scene with Elphaba and Nessa when Bach becomes the Tin Man? I just want to do more practice with that. Virgil was stammering over his words, and Roman found it interesting that a man that tall could be so uneasy, but he didn't judge. The two flipped to that scene in their scripts and began reading. Thanks for coming here tonight, Roman, Virgil said when he opened the door to the apartment. Janice is out with Logan and Rhea's, somewhere. Maybe with Patton? So it's just us. We can move the furniture to make it easier to practice. Roman nodded, setting his bag down next to the door. He had been in the apartment before, yes, but it felt like there was a different vibe when it was just Virgil there. And I don't know. I didn't feel like leaving the house today. That's all right. I don't mind. As long as you pay for the pizza we're going to order later. Roman smirked, removing his jacket. He set it on one of the chairs at the dining table. He tried not to focus on the fact that Virgil was wearing a plain black t-shirt and some purple plaid pajama pants. He was dressed casually, too, in some black joggers and a red shirt. He slipped out of his sneakers and then got out his script. Do you want to practice some of the parts for Fiyero? Virgil asked, partially sitting on the arm of the couch. Roman shook his head. I don't mind focusing on Bach, because I really want you to be as prepared as possible for next week, he said, and Virgil nodded, head down. Virg? You're helping me so much, even though Bach is such a minor part, and you're going for Fiyero, this big role, and... He sighed, twisting his fingers together. I feel bad, taking your practice time from you. Roman wanted to hold Virgil and tell him that it was okay, but he didn't. He just shrugged. I feel more prepared for this audition than anything I've ever auditioned for before, so please don't worry about it, he said, voice calm. He wanted to try even harder to do well on this audition because he wanted to perform with Virgil on stage, maybe get to hold his hand during the curtain call, spend hours in rehearsal to the point where they were both exhausted but happy. Then he accidentally takes a sip of Virgil's iced coffee. Suddenly, he remembered something he wanted to ask Virgil. Hey, what shoe size do you wear? Huh? An 11.5. Why? Virgil gave him a confused look, but Roman just smirked and shrugged again. No reason. Should we do a song or some dialogue first? I'll get it, Virgil said, getting up from his sitting position on the floor. He opened the door and paid the pizza person, then set it on the dining table. Roman hopped up from the floor and investigated the pizza when Virgil opened the box. It was half meat lovers, wink wink, and half cheese only. Roman thought the purely cheese pizza was boring, but it was what Virgil had wanted, so he acquiesced. Virgil's taste in pizza didn't change the way he felt about the taller man, and plus, Virgil did pay for it and the soda they ordered along with it. The two piled as many pieces as they could onto the paper plates they were provided, and Virgil went into the kitchen quickly to get some glasses for their soda. They ate quickly and quietly, the past several hours of practicing having made them both exhausted and starving, and pretty soon the entire pizza was gone, and the two were lounging on the couch, flipping through the script to figure out what other moments would be good during the audition. Virgil finally spoke, voice hesitant. I feel more like the Cowardly Lion than anything, he admitted. Roman didn't say anything, but pulled his legs under him, watching the other man very carefully. I feel sheltered, protected. Janice has always guided me in the direction that I didn't realize I needed to go in, but ever since he entered the partnership with Logan, I just feel like I'm on the back burner. Roman frowned, hating that Virgil would feel that way, but he knew it was natural. How long have you and Janice been friends for? He finally asked, and Virgil leaned his head against the cushion, sighing, deep in thought. Since middle school, I think. I was always on my own, for obvious reasons. He started, and Roman's frown deepened. I don't think it's obvious, he muttered, which made Virgil smile a bit. Go on, sorry. It's fine. I just... Virgil sighed. I was depressed. I was always having panic attacks, and I think my scars scared people. Roman nodded but stayed quiet, watching as Virgil played with the hem of his shirt. Janice just took me under his wing. Cape. He was as weird as I was, and Virgil smiled, the memories flooding back. He would text me reminders to take my meds, to drink water, to get rest. When I told him I was struggling not to cut, he would come over immediately and just draw on my arms and legs, if only to get that feeling out of my head. He bought me these noise-canceling headphones and would slip them over my head, then play jazz music for me. When I tried to... Virgil's breath hitched, then, and his eyes peered down. You don't... If this is hard to talk about, Roman started, but Virgil shook his head, and Roman just reached his hand out to rub against Virgil's shoulder, in an attempt to comfort him. When I tried to kill myself, he found me, took me to the hospital, insisted on sleeping in the chair beside my bed as I recovered. Virgil explained, hands and voice a little shaky. My parents didn't care, but Janice did. I've been able to get better because of him, but now that he has someone else to care for, I think he's losing sight of me. I don't think that's true, Roman said abruptly, which made Virgil give him a surprised look. Janice cares about you, and the fact that he's in a partnership with Logan doesn't change that. If you needed him, he would be there in an instant, I'm sure of it. He was at every one of our productions last term, even though he didn't see you the entire time. Virgil nodded, and let his head fall onto Roman's hand. Yeah, you're probably right. I just feel so unable to do things, sometimes, he said, eyes fluttering shut. He tried to stifle a yawn, but it came out anyways, and Roman smiled sweetly at him, then glanced at the clock. I should probably go. It's pretty late, he said, starting to get up from the couch, but Virgil grabbed his hand. Their eyes met, and Roman's heart felt like it was going to leap out of his chest. Thank you, Roman, for everything. Hey, Virg. Sorry I'm late. Roman ran up to Virgil, who was pacing outside the theater. Roman had a bag from a local shoe store in hand and was panting. He had run from the parking lot, not wanting to miss this final practice, since the auditions were the following day. Virgil's eyes landed on the bag, and he shot a questioning look to the shorter man. Roman noticed his glance and smiled, then handed the bag to Virgil. These are for you, actually. Open it. Please, just open it, okay? Their eyes met and Virgil nodded, opening the bag. He took the shoebox out and flipped the top open. They're anti-slip shoes, so even if something spills on the stage... He was cut off by Virgil giving him a big hug, which startled him so much that they almost fell backwards. Whoa, careful! You're not wearing the shoes yet. Virgil was gripping to Roman tightly, and he said nothing. Thank you, Virgil whispered softly, and he pulled away, face bright red. I really appreciate this. Roman nodded, adjusting his backpack strap. Yeah, of course, he said, returning the smile. Wouldn't want you falling head over heels now, would we? Virgil's face turned even redder, and Roman started to panic. Did he screw up? We should head in. Our practice time slot is coming up, Virgil said abruptly, putting the lid back onto the box and heading into the theater. Roman sighed, then followed him inside. It's okay, Virg. You're gonna do great. Roman was standing in front of him, an encouraging look on his face. Their audition was next, and Virgil was breathing heavily. His hands were shaking, and even though Roman was also nervous, he did his best to convey confidence to his friend. We've got this, okay? I don't know, maybe I should just be a tech guy again. Yeah, I'm not cut out for this. He was rambling, eyes darting towards the stage where a girl was belting Defying Gravity, and back to Roman, who reached out and took his hand to soothe their shaking. And his voice was calling Virgil back from a place where his mind was lost. Virg, look at me. Only me, okay? Don't worry about the director or the others that are here, he said softly, and Virgil met his glance, nodding. Just focus on me. I won't let you fall. I promise. As soon as they got onto the stage, Virgil in the anti-slip shoes, his anxiety almost disappeared. It didn't hurt that the stage lighting made Roman even more beautiful than usual, and when Roman was at his best, so was Virgil. He kept his eyes only on Roman as he introduced the two, said what roles they were each auditioning for, and they began their audition. Virgil slipped over a few words, but got an encouraging smile from Roman, so he kept going, and when their audition was over, they thanked the director and walked off. His legs nearly gave out on him from the stress, but Roman had his arms around him immediately. You did so good, Virg, he was saying, murmuring more sweet things, kind things. Virgil felt like he could turn into a puddle. He was being held by Roman, and he was being told all of these things. He finally glanced up when he heard their names being called by someone. Virgil! Roman! It was Patton, Remus being dragged behind him, their fingers intertwined. Logan and Janice were not far behind, but Janice pushed forward to be at the front of the group. Virgil shot Roman a confused look. I told him about how nervous you were and figured you could use some encouragement afterwards, he explained as Janice gave Virgil a big hug. We were watching from the back where you couldn't see us, Janice said. You did so well. I'm so proud of you for taking this step. When do you find out the results? Logan asked as the group left out one of the side doors to the theater. If they need them, callbacks will be next week, and then in 2 weeks they'll put out the cast list, Roman explained, watching as Virgil and Janice walked, arms linked. He smiled, but felt a little off. He didn't get as much time with Virgil after the audition as he had hoped for, but he knew this would help the anxious man. Remus came up to him and wrapped an arm around his shoulder. "You did really good, Ro," he said, a genuine smile on his face. Roman looked down. He was never sure how to talk to his brother, not after everything that had happened to them both, but he smiled back. Thanks for coming. I know you probably came for Virgil, but I still appreciate it." His voice was hesitant, and Remus frowned. "No, I came to support my brother," he corrected, and Roman nodded. "And I'm really proud of you." Roman and Virgil ran. They were having lunch with the others when they each got a text that the cast list was about to be posted, so they left the others and were running across campus towards the theater. Virgil stopped once it was in view, which made Roman stop. The anxious man was shaking, and he squatted down, holding his face in his hands. "Oh God, I'm not going to get it," he was saying, and Roman squatted down next to him, putting a hand on his back. "It's all been for nothing, Roman. I'm not going to get it." "Hey, shh. It's okay, Virgil," he cooed softly. "We don't know that. I'm very confident that you got it. Come on, let's go find out." "I'm scared." Virgil's voice was shaky, and Roman realized that he was crying. "I'm scared that I'm not going to get it, and I'll be in the back again watching everyone else, and I'll just feel lost." "Hey, I won't let that happen," Roman said, continuing to rub Virgil's back comfortingly. "Do you want me to go and check and then come back?" Virgil shook his head. "No, don't leave me," he whined, and buried his face into Roman's shoulder. "I'm okay, I'm not ready for this to be over." "Not ready for what to be over?" Roman's voice was full of confusion. "This. Hanging out with you, practicing for auditions. If you get the role and I don't, we won't be able to hang out anymore," Virgil admitted, and Roman could feel tears staining through his shirt. "Why not?" he asked. "I still want to hang out with you, no matter what happens. I told you I wouldn't let you fall, and that means I won't let you fall out of my life either." Virgil said nothing as he stood back up, wiping his face onto the sleeve of his hoodie. Roman stood up too, watching Virgil carefully. "Come on, let's go see your name on that cast list." He held his hand out, and Virgil laced his fingers through Roman's. They walked the rest of the way to the theater, saying nothing, and waited for the crowd around the corkboard to dissipate a little before going up to scan it with their eyes. Fiero Tigular, the Scarecrow. Roman Creative. Buck, the Tin Man. Virgil Cloud. "I got it," Virgil whispered. Roman cheered, his free hand wrapping around Virgil and lifting him up, which wasn't easy given the fact that Virgil was significantly taller than him, but he didn't care. Virgil kept muttering the words, and Roman pulled him off to the side, the two exchanging a big hug. "I knew you would, Virg," Roman murmured. Virgil pulled away from Roman's arms a little bit, his face bright red and his eyes meeting those of the shorter man. He didn't hesitate to press their foreheads together, and Roman sucked in a deep breath. "Virgil, he started, but didn't get a chance to finish when chapped lips met his glossy ones. Virgil pulled back, panic in his eyes. I'm sorry, I've wanted to do that for a while, and now seemed like the perfect time, and I'm so sorry." Roman cut off his rambles by kissing him again, wrapping his arms around the taller man's neck. Their kisses were sloppy and rushed, and when they finally pulled apart to catch their breath, Roman was grinning wildly. "Don't apologize," he whispered, holding one of Virgil's cheeks in his hand. "I've wanted to do that for so long, Virg." They smiled rather stupidly at each other, and all Roman could think was why he had hesitated for so long to kiss Virgil.